Hello, Soundies. Welcome to our check. Welcome, Audio Buff. Go from dodging tornadoes to hanging with CJ, all within the same hour. What a whirlwind. Stay safe out there, friend. So sorry to hear there are more tornadoes after all the tornadoes that there have been recently. So yes, stay safe. I hope everything works out okay. We're just doing a quick check here. I've got a different setup, so I wanted to make sure that we check things. Not a different setup than we've ever used, but we switched back to the Shelford channel today, and just wanted to check in and make sure that's sounding okay. Hopefully, that is. On my end, it's sounding pretty good. We'll go ahead and run through a few things here, and welcome, Know Your Joe. It's good to have you here as well. All right, let's just kind of run through things. So here, what did that take us to? That took us to the wrong thing. That was the overhead cam. This is the agenda that we normally have, and we're just going to make sure we can kind of make our way through that. That's looking good. Okay, let's go to the Mac and make sure that's coming through okay. I want to make sure we get queued up appropriately there. Should have the Mac now, and just to make sure we're hearing the Mac. All right, now we're in another room here with plenty of reflections, hard surfaces. This is the kitchen, and we have a dishwasher running. And another one with worse noise and reverb. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk here. I'm in a pretty reverberant space. Let's go ahead and give you a sample here. I'm using a JZ microphones. It's this small diaphragm condenser mic. I just turned off the fan. I'm in a bathroom, and there's plenty of reverberation, as you can hear. And now I can also turn on the bathroom fan. So we can really stress Dialog Isolate and see how well Dialog Isolate is able to handle not only the noise, but also the reverberation. Let's see what we get here. There's some noise for us. That should work well. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk here. I'm in a pretty reverberant space. Let's go ahead and give you a sample here. I'm using a JZ microphones. It's this small diaphragm condenser mic. I just turned off the fan. I'm in a bathroom, and there's plenty of reverberation, as you can hear. And now I can also turn on the bathroom fan. So we can really stress Dialog Isolate and see how well Dialog Isolate is able to handle not only the noise, but also the reverberation. Let's see what we get here. Okay, well, we'll do some more testing of that tomorrow, just so you can get a sense for how that works. But let's go back to the main camera here. We're using a new monitor here with our multi-view, and it's an OC monitor. They sent me a top secret monitor that I cannot talk about, but it's quite nice so far. So we've got that. So how are you all doing out there, Thomas? Hello, it's good to hear from you. Sounds good on this end. Thank you for confirming. Know Your Joe. This summer I'll be learning DaVinci and Fairlight. Your courses are in my immediate future. Good. I hope that works well for you. It may be kind of elementary for you, Audio Buff, but that's exciting to learn new things like that. All right. We're going to talk about Isotope RX. We might also talk about the new firmware update for the Sound Devices 8 series, which have some interesting new features. Little crud there. I want to get that out of the way. 32-bit float recording, but I'm not clear on whether that is using multiple analog to digital converters or how it's working. I do remember Paul Isaacs saying that the preamplifiers on the Sound Devices 8 series, that's the 833, 888, and Scorpio, it's just the analog preamplifiers can handle 142 dB of dynamic range, which is, I think, really close to what 24-bit is able to encode. And so I don't know if they're using multiple analog to digital converters on the 8 series, or if it's just literally encoding the isolated channels in 32-bit float, and just trying to take advantages of as much of the dynamic range as the preamplifiers are able to supply. 24-bit should be able to handle, I think, most of that range, if not all of it. I can't remember the exact spec on what 24-bit can handle in terms of dynamic range. It's close to that. But the challenge you do run into is that there's not as much resolution necessarily, especially when you get down into the noise floor. So that might be what they're trying to address, is just to make sure that you're not running up against that. So, all right, Know Your Joe, doing well here. Hope things are going good, well for you and yours. No upgrade pricing on the iZotope website that I can find. Yes, in fact, there is. We can actually show you that. And let's cut over to that. Pricing options. Okay, so those are the kind of the base prices for right now. So the standard version, $299, Elements, $49, Advanced, $799, although I think they're calling those sale prices. I can tell you that if you have Advanced and you want to upgrade, it's $299, and the way you'll find that is you'll have if you buy any of the iZotope plugins, you will have an iZotope account, and when you go into your iZotope account, you can go to your loyalty offers, and it will show you in there. In fact, I could probably show you mine here. So the standard upgrade is $99 if you have any previous version of RX Standard or Advanced. The Advanced version is a $299 upgrade if you have any version of Advanced or RX Post-Production Suite. And then you can upgrade Post-Production Suite for $399 from any previous version of RX Advanced. So that includes a few additional things. And then there's the Everything bundle. So I don't know. Yeah, and we're going to talk. I don't want to spoil things right now, but we'll talk about whether the upgrade is worth it. So, well, hello from Istanbul, and I will probably slaughter your name if I try to pronounce it, but Sesmi was how a native English speaker in the United States would probably pronounce that. I hope I did it right. Thomas, doing well. From the distance you're viewing that top screen secret monitor, I'm guessing it's larger than the typical or 5 or 7-inch on-camera monitor. It is. It's I think it's a 22-inch right over here. Production monitor, as you might imagine. So, yes, it's a slightly larger one. All right. So anyway, as I was saying, back to the Sound Devices 8 series. So 32-bit float, they have a new daylight viewing option for the screen. So it goes to a kind of a white background instead of a black background, which should make it a little easier to view outdoors in the direct sunlight. So there's that feature. There is also a new routing matrix if you're using the tablet app. Setting up your routing is going to be much easier on that big screen as opposed to the tiny little screen of the 8 series recorder. So using the, what do they call it? I can't remember what the app is called. Let's take a look. SD Remote, I think is what it's called. Under Video Utilities. There it is. My first thing there. SD Remote, indeed, is what it's called. So what I might do tonight is go ahead and record a 32-bit float sample just to see what it's like, and we can, if we have time on the stream, we'll talk about that as well. So that's the plan for tomorrow. It's been a while since we used the Shelford channel, so I'm happy and excited to break that out again and just give that a little workout, little time to operate and some love. We're doing just a tiny bit of compression I'm not sure, loudness wise will be hard to tell, but so anyway, that's the big thing here. We need to keep our RX10 in the dock because we do use RX quite a bit. A couple of notes here. Interesting that the upgrade pricing is for any version, not just the most recent. Some companies charge more to upgrade from older versions to get you to upgrade every version. That is nice. That's the good version. Here's the inverse view of that. I upgraded from RX10 for a steep $299. I don't see much of a difference. Yeah, I think it's preview. I don't know that it's necessarily. It's like a lot of technology now. I haven't bought a new camera since 2024. Or sorry, this is 2024. Since 2020. And I don't feel any need to, because the one I have, the series of cameras that I have are all serving my needs just fine. I have an iPad from 2020. When did the M1 iPad come out? I don't remember. Whenever that was. Still using that for the live stream when we go to the agenda here. In fact, that's an iPad screen right there. So we're running Keynote on an iPad for that. And Danny uses it a little bit. She keeps the books for the business. She uses it for that a little bit. She's actually on the computer, but she uses the iPad for, we have 1Password and some other things on there that she references. So it's not super heavy. I'll sometimes take it when I travel. Incidentally, I just got back from a lovely trip to Quebec City. And it was my first time to Quebec. It was lovely. It was almost like being in Europe, in North America. It was actually great food, lovely people. Glad I got a chance to go. So where was I? Yeah, MacBooks still on M1s across the board. No, my MacBook Air is an M2, I think, but the Studio's an M1. The MacBooks are M1s, aside from the Air. Yeah, I feel like being a tech reviewer, or not, I'm not actually like a general purpose tech reviewer, but in my arena, I will continue to review products to help other people. But if it were just for me, there's nothing that there is one thing I would actually like to acquire right now, and that is I've been having a lot of problems with SonarWorks Sound ID reference. It's essentially how you can calibrate your room. So you use your near-field monitors. You have a measurement microphone. There's an app that has you move the microphone all around the room. It creates a profile to adapt the output of your monitors for your particular room. So you get essentially a flatter, more even, less colored frequency response within your room. So it's not so much just the speakers that are the part of the equation there. It's your room and how it reacts to sound moving around in it. So it's a great app. Really like it, but it has not been working on the latest version of Mac OS for me, at least with my Apollo audio interface. And so I've spent a bunch of time troubleshooting. So that's that. Another company called IK Multimedia makes a hardware solution that does it basically the same thing. And so instead of having to run an app on your computer that essentially captures all of the sound, runs it through this customized filter, and then plays it out of your audio interface and your speakers, this is actually a piece of hardware that goes between your audio interface. You send the output from your audio interface into this little box, and the box you output to your monitors, your near-field monitors. And so it applies that EQ curve, essentially, that corrective EQ curve in a piece of hardware. So I'm considering looking at that instead. All right, back to iZotope RX supported host does not include Final Cut Pro. Yes, that's no surprise. Technically, I can tell you that traditionally the plugins have worked. The AU versions of the plugins have worked in Final Cut. So just so you're aware. Using Shelford for just wanting to bring it back, or is there a more specific driver for it this weekend? No, just switching it up. We have the option, so we're doing it. Mike has a question for tomorrow. Did they bring back the desktop app for RX Elements 11? Elements 10 was disappointing in that it only included the VSTs. No. I can answer the question right now, Mike. It does not look like they brought it back, which is strange. 9 had it, so you could use the desktop app, the audio editor. They call it iZotope RX Audio Editor. And it included, among other things, the phase module with the adaptive phase rotation, which is a fantastic feature for post-production when you have, especially men's dialogue recordings where the waveform is asymmetric. So it's larger amplitude on one side of negative infinity versus the other. And so having that adaptive phase rotation could essentially provide you with more headroom, so you wouldn't have to compress the audio as much if you were trying to achieve a specific loudness. So unfortunately, no, Mike, it does not. Michael says, do not go to Quebec in January, so friggin' cold. I can only imagine. I will say in May, it was actually warmer there than it is here up in the mountains. So it was approaching 80 degrees during the day. Beautiful, really comfortable. And here it's still low 50s during the day. So Christopher says, I've seen some I assume you mean comments on Facebook that the 32-bit ISOs disable other features on the 8 series. Have you seen anything like that? I haven't tested it at all. I literally just installed the firmware update moments before I started the stream here. And I was actually wondering as I did it, I thought to myself, well, I wonder what happens with the limiters. Are the limiters disabled during 32-bit float recording, at least on the isolated channels? I don't know. I will have to take a look at that. And I don't know what those other features might be. So limiters were the first one that came to my mind. I haven't upgraded my Scorpio yet. I usually wait for the .x2 patch release that almost always comes a couple of weeks after Sound Devices does a big update. Yeah, I think this one was 10.0.1, so not necessarily a bad idea to wait. I don't have any big productions coming up, so I felt fairly safe doing it. But we'll give it some time. Mike says, right, which I like Elements 9 so much more, indeed. JJSC Tech says, hey, Christopher Wachura, can I borrow your Scorpio? Can I borrow your $12,000 mixer, please? Oh, good. All right. Well, I don't know if have you heard or seen anything that doesn't seem to be working on the stream. I think this is our lighting design. This is what it looks like. We went to the Mac. That seemed to be working. On the Mac, we did play back sound from RX. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk here. I'm in a pretty reverberant space. And that seems to work, at least on my end. We also went to our agenda with the picture-in-picture. That all seemed to work. And I think that's everything we need to do there. So, Know Your Joe. Low 50s. Already hitting 90 degrees Fahrenheit here during the days in Texas. Go figure. Yeah, well, there difference in altitude and latitude. Latitude, yeah. No, latitude, yes, latitude. So we're definitely north of where you're at, and we're also at 6,000 feet altitude. So it is definitely, definitely there's some factors. 90s is warm. Might actually be kind of welcome. Thomas says we're looking and sounding good out there. Good. Still using a decimator to get the Mac into the switcher. The Mac actually goes directly into the switcher via HDMI. So we have an HDMI output on the Mac, and that goes into an HDMI input on the switcher. We are still using 3 decimators. One to get a feed from the, what's it called, HyperDeck. That thing. So the HyperDeck is actually feeding our super source. So the background waveform image that's coming from the HyperDeck. So that only has an SDI out, so that's coming into the SDI in on the decimator and HDMI out on the other end to come into the switcher, which is all HDMI inputs on this particular switcher. We have a decimator from the output, the program output on this switcher. So it's HDMI out from the switcher to a decimator HDMI input, and then SDI out to the encoder. We're still using the Epiphan Pearl Nano to actually send this to YouTube. And then we have a third decimator, which takes the... It allows us to essentially split the HDMI signal. So in addition to sending that program feed to the encoder, it's also sending a program feed to what's right in front of me, which is a teleprompter. So I can see what the program feed is right in front of me here as I look into the lens of the camera. So that's also doing that. And then there's another, what does the third decimator do? Oh, that third decimator, although we don't technically need it with this particular monitor, but the monitor I typically used in the past was a production monitor that did not have an HDMI input. It only had an SDI input. So I had to take the multi-view output from the switcher through a decimator to SDI and then into the production monitor. We actually technically don't need that with this production monitor, but it was easier just to go ahead and hook it up since I already had that connection there. We could go HDMI into this monitor, it turns out. So that's where we're at there. All right. Stream looks and sounds good in Clovis, California. Excellent. Any chance you could grab someone's Sound Devices CL16 Nexus Go rig to review? I don't know who. I don't know anyone that owns one. I don't personally know anyone that owns that particular combination. Yeah, I think that would be less of a review and more of a tour, to be honest. When you're getting to that level, it wouldn't be like a critical review necessarily, unless I had some really serious frustrations with it. It'd be more of a, this is how this works. On my channel, those type of reviews never work well. Reviewing really high-end gear. The thing is that when you get into high-end gear, it's high-end gear, very expensive gear like that. A lot of the people that are using CL16s are using Scorpios. And the Scorpio, of course, is... How much does a Scorpio cost nowadays? I don't even know. Let's take a look. We're going to go to B&H Photo. So we'll come over here. We'll look at the Sound Devices Scorpio. And I'm going to guess 12K. Oh, 11,500. Pretty close. Or 12, depending on... Oh, that's if you get it with a bag. Exactly why you would... That's an interesting little bundle. Interestingly, there's a 1-star review. I'm dying to just see what that is. Let's look at the reviews. Sound Devices mixers were considered the gold standard when I started my career. Those days are gone. My last mixer started glitching after a few years of pampered use, spoiling my recordings. I contacted Sound Devices and they quoted the repairs to be $795. That amount exceeded the original price of the mixer. I just wanted to... This mixer is $12,000, and when it was first introduced, I think it was $9,000. So exactly how $795 was more than the price of the mixer, I do not understand. That amount exceeded the original price of the mixer. The unreliability and lack of support is not only disappointing, it is unsound and divisive. This person seems to have some of their facts not quite straight, but in any case, $11,500 for the Scorpio itself. Then I'm going to go ahead and pop this off the screen. There we go. Let's get the sound devices. I don't even know if you can buy this at B&H. CL16. Let's see what that. Oh yeah, that's here for $6,000. That's the control surface with the big screen. And then of course there's the sound devices Nexus Go. And that is another $8,495. And it comes with 4 channels, but you can essentially rent or purchase the ability to use up to 6 or 8 channels. It is in stock. And in fact, to get those additional channels, here's a 2-channel expansion license for $2,500. So these are the kind of things that you don't... It's not like reviewing consumer electronics or anything that's less than $1,000. It's a very different sort of game. I'd love to try them out, though, and tell you about my experience. So those are some thoughts there. The CL16 is a ridiculous cost for a USB controller. It's more than a real mixer like an SQ5 plus Dante module. Yeah, I mean, it's there are production sound mixers using it, but it is expensive. And yeah, it is expensive, I will say. Mike says, everything sounds good. It's fine on rural Montana internet. See everyone tomorrow. Okay, have a good one. What? He got the Scorpio for less than $795. That's the same question I have. JJSC Tech. I do not... It doesn't make sense. It does not compute. If he got it for that price, he got an amazing used deal, and he shouldn't be complaining about the repair price because he essentially got a $12,000 mixer for less than $1,000. All right. You said something about loading a profile into a device earlier. Is the device you were talking about hardware solution to help balance and improve the sound in a room? Oh, yes. So I was talking about... currently, I have SonarWorks Sound ID Reference, which is an application that runs on your computer, Mac or a PC. And that's what I've been using to apply a corrective EQ to my near-field monitors. The reality is when you stick near-field monitors in a room and you're playing back sound from them, the room and the monitors together color the sound, depending on how you have it treated or not treated, depending on the shape of the room, depending on where you're sitting, depending on a million factors. And so what Sound ID Reference does is it actually takes measurements from multiple places in your room. It creates a customized corrective EQ, and it applies that EQ to the speakers whenever sound are played through them from your computer. So that's the software solution. However, I've had problems with that app. So IK Multimedia makes a little box hardware solution that does the same thing. So you do the measurements with the IK Multimedia solution. It has a measurement microphone and an app where you get the measurements in your room with your monitors. And then you apply that corrective EQ to the hardware device, which sits between your audio interface and your near-field monitors. And it applies that EQ. So it's not so much to make it... I wouldn't think it's so much in terms of sounding better, improve the sound. I guess it does improve it from a standpoint that it does attempt to make it... it tries to address some of the acoustical problems of your space in combination with your monitors. So it's trying to achieve a flatter response overall, is the main idea. Okay, so that's what that was about. Hopefully that makes sense. Know your Joe. Christopher says, yeah, expensive niche stuff doesn't get many views. My last was for a spatial mic Dante, which is a $3,000 second order spatial mic and has a whopping 200 views. Yeah, it's not just that. That is definitely part of it. Another thing about it is that very expensive gear like that is made for very specialized professionals usually, and it's a very different kind of conversation. It's not the type of format that you would use typically for a consumer electronics review, or even for a review of a piece of gear that is less than $1,000. Say it's a Sennheiser MKH416. Let's say that is a microphone, one that plenty of professionals use, but also which is within reach from a monetary standpoint for more people than just full-time professional production sound mixers. It's available to more people because of its price. But how you approach so what I have done on my channel traditionally is not. Here's the thing: whenever I do a review, it's like people feel like I'm trying to sell them something, which is interesting. It's not my intent, but I think that's how most people read it. So in other words, if I make a video about a piece of gear, I think most people think that I'm endorsing it and I'm encouraging them to buy it, which again, like I said, is not really my intent. And that's if you do that with a very expensive piece of gear, then a bunch of people leave all these angry comments about, that's ridiculous, I would never spend that much money for that thing. Well, a Sound Devices Scorpio is a useful tool for someone who is doing production sound and needs lots of inputs and needs routing capability, needs lots of outputs in a very small package that they can put on a sound card that has integrated options for wireless receivers. I mean, it's made for the production sound mixer for film and television, and for those people, it's a pretty good tool. Does that mean that YouTubers, people that are making YouTube videos, should buy it, even if their channel is extraordinarily successful? Probably not. They don't need it. It has a bunch of features that they really don't need. So those kind of reviews never play very well. And so the way I approach it is, why do pros use gear like this? Why do pros use a Sound Devices Scorpio? And that's more, then it makes it very clear that the purpose of the video is not to sell them, to try and convince them to buy it, but answering the very kind of a curiosity question, like, what do these pro level things have that the consumer level things don't have? I mean, people will often say things like, you never need more than a Zoom F6. It's ridiculous to spend any more money than that. And from their perspective, for what they're doing, that may well be true. But anyway, it's an interesting world out there. Know Your Joe, thanks. Thank you. Christopher says, I don't do reviews so much as first look or overviews. I completely agree. I wish I had available when I was researching I wish I had available when I was researching the device myself. Completely agree. And in that case, then you're right. It's a very niche group. So if you're talking about a $3,000 Dante-based second order spatial microphone, yeah, that's not very many people shopping for those. So, I am clipping, is what you're telling me. Okay, good to know. Thank you for that, Christopher. That's why we do these. So what I need to do is I'm going to share my Mac screen here. You're absolutely right. It does show that I've gotten to the clipping point. So what I'm going to do is gain down a touch. That should hopefully put us in a safer spot. Checking 1, 2. Ha 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 ha. There, we're a little safer. And let's just put it there for a moment. Thank you, Christopher. Appreciate that. Note on getting the occasional clipping noises. So hopefully that will put us in a safer spot. Okay. All right, friends, I need to go to sleep so I can be ready for tomorrow. Thanks for dropping by. Hope everything's going well for you. Get out there and make some, well, probably you should sleep. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.